The story of my discharge is integral to who I am and where I am now. I had a bladder infection. I felt unwell one night, and the next morning I woke up not able to move and was taken to hospital. I was there longer than I needed to be because they wanted me to go to rehab to get well again. I became increasingly unable to walk. I was there for a week before I was told I was right to go home. They organised a walking frame for me and a ramp for the front step. I had a weekend at home and discovered I couldn't get into my bathroom without being able to walk. I went back to rehab so they could work out where I could go in a wheelchair. My disability case manager found somewhere new for me to live. I signed the lease and had my stuff moved out of my old unit, but I had to stay in rehab because I couldn't get more support hours that I needed to be able to go home. Basically, as long as the health service were paying for the rehab hours, the disability service wouldn't pay for more support hours. In the meantime, I was paying rent. I'd had enough. I contacted the media and they got in touch with the disability service to find out their side of the story. Suddenly, my hours got approved. I remember just lying here, feeling abandoned in this new flat I didn't want to live in. It was a big change to go from having so many people around me to just being totally on my own. In my previous flat, I had people around me too. I was so scared of falling out of bed. I'll never forget that feeling of being so afraid, thinking, how am I going to live like this? I think that should have been taken into consideration with my discharge planning. Maybe having someone to come around and check to see how I was going, just for the transition period. It's about your life around the disability. Things like, how am I going to get public transport? How am I going to maintain friendships? I came home to an empty house with all my stuff in boxes, thinking, well, how do I start to even unpack these boxes? How do I live in a wheelchair? Let alone, how do I get back to work in my studio? Recently, my catheter blocked and I was leaking. I called the extended care paramedic and was told there was no service between midnight and 7 a.m. anymore. We decided I'd have to call a locum, but I was told they were maxed out in my area and couldn't see me. I called the ECP back and we discussed all my options. They said I'd have to call an ambulance. I didn't want to go into hospital to unblock a catheter. I'd have to leave my wheelchair at home, get an ambulance back costing me $250 and wait around for hours for non-emergency transport. The ECP told me I wouldn't have been seen till 7 a.m. anyway, and I'd had a bad experience recently with doctors in emergency who weren't able to change a catheter. The ECP are highly trained paramedics who can change a catheter painlessly and whose job it is to keep me out of hospital. I laid in bed for 6 hours, head to toe in urine, until my support worker came at 7 a.m. in the morning. I wrote and sent photos to every politician and media contact I have to highlight the issue. The extended care paramedic service between 12 and 7 a.m. has been reinstated, and my application for more support hours has been fast-tracked. I was also told about an after-hours disability service I could call. No one I know had ever heard of this service. the amount I've learnt along the way, I'm in a really privileged position actually. I have such a unique perspective of the world right now. It's hugely rich and thoughtful, more nuanced than I could have ever imagined the world before. The whole thing of becoming disabled is that you feel like a failure and that your life is over. But in fact, life goes on whether you're in a wheelchair or not. I'd really love to be able to go back to work, particularly in my studio, but I really need an assistant to be able to do that. I'm hoping the NDIS will be able to help me with that.